Hey guys, we've got Lachie here from Coast Watch Football. How are you today?
I'm really, really good. Thanks for having me.
That's good. We've got some ladder predictions, best signings between the Mariners being your team with the jersey in the background,
That's right.
and and just the A League in general. So you stole one of our players, me being a Wanderers fan. You stole Nikolai from us.
That's right.
That's a decent pickup.
It is. It is. It's a player. Like in my opinion, as a Mariners fan, this is probably the most high profile signing we've made for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
Obviously it was a big move even when he came over to the A League a few years ago to join the Wanderers. And I think it'd be interesting to see what you think, but I think he had a decent stint at the Wanderers. I don't think he quite maybe lit up the league with the potential that he has, with the quality that he has. He maybe
yeah.
didn't quite hit those heights he was expected to. But so good to have a player like him, and especially after we lost, Danny De Silva was a big loss for us because he was such a crucial part of our success last season. So Nikolai Mola is sort of fulfilling that sort of creative midfielder role for us this year, hopefully.
Yeah, I expected something was up because he wasn't named in the Wanderers squads for a couple of weeks. And me and all my other Wanderers friends were like, where is he? He's one of our best, but he's not being named weekly. So knew something was up there.
Mm.
A few other signings. Benny Nicola.
Yeah,
I don't know much
Benny.
about him.
He's an interesting player because it's not often that you see, because obviously with the European signings they're usually reasonably established and have played, generally more experienced players. But Benny, I think, is 23 years old, has been playing in the French third division, and yeah, like I said, it's interesting to bring over a player like that, a young European player. But clearly they've seen something in him, and we're hearing just from some of the plays and training and stuff that apparently he's looking really, really good. Interested again to see where he's played. Apparently he's pretty versatile too. Can play as a winger, attacking midfielder, or even up front as a striker. So good to have that versatility
He's
too,
very versatile.
for sure.
Um, Storm Rue from Melbourne Victory. He's
Fantastic signing.
been through a few clubs, hasn't he? So his
I
name's Victory, Mariners. I feel like there's another one, but
I think he started off his career at Perth Glory because I think he's a Perth
yeah,
boy, and I think he might have played I think he only played like 1 or 2 games for Perth Glory like years ago. That was like before he joined the Mariners in his first stint.
yeah.
But yeah, like as a Mariners fan, I'm really glad that Storm's back. And for us Coastie fans, I think he was a real fan favorite in his time at the club here in his first stint. And he was one of the leading players in our side when we were really struggling, picking up the wooden spoon, for a number of years there a few years ago. And he just adds a bunch of experience as well, because again, if you look at our back line, I think our oldest player before Storm arrived, our oldest player was Ruan Tongic at 24.
Yeah,
And it's a very youthful backline. And obviously the backline did so well for the Mariners last season. Kai Rolls, Lewis Miller, Jack Lisby's left, but we've got Noah Smith coming into the side as well. But yeah, Stormer just, I think, is a great signing because he just, a couple things. He adds that depth, a little bit of competition for a right back player like Lewis Miller, and just the experience. Like I think Storm's 28 now. He's got some pedigree in the A League, and yeah, just a really solid signing for the Coast.
yeah. You just mentioned Noah Smith. That's another signing from Adelaide, I believe.
Yes,
And
fantastic.
and also, if you haven't, go watch the interview that Lachie has with Noah Smith.
That's right.
I believe it's on your YouTube watch.
Indeed, it is the Coast Watch Football YouTube.
Yep, so easy. Go watch that.
That's right. That's right. And Noah was such like a down to earth guy to chat to, and I think a really good signing as well because, again, we've seen a lot of young products come up through the Mariners, and we've really developed them. A handful of them have turned into Socceroos, as we've seen now in the Socceroos squad with like Matty Ryan, Trent Sainsbury,
Yep.
and Noah Smith has the potential to be one of those players. He did have a handful of first team games for Adelaide United in the early part of last season, and 20 years of age, a lot of potential. And yeah, just from that chat that I had with him, he sounds really optimistic for the upcoming campaign. So it's clear that his attitude is there. Like he's got the mentality to be a successful footballer. And I think a lot of Mariners fans are expecting him to be our starting left back. Now that, as I mentioned, Jack Clisby's gone, Noah Smith looks like he'll be the guy to slot in there and be our starting left back. So a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. But hopefully he can live up to those standards.
Yeah, well, I don't hope so, being a Wanderers fan. So 2 more arrivals. Got Kai Goddard.
I think that was a tricky one when he arrived too. I think it's Kai Goddard.
Yeah, from Italy, Benevento.
Well, he's got a weird trajectory. Like he started off in the Spurs academy.
Yeah.
In the Premier League, and
yeah, he's a Spurs junior.
Yeah. So he did spend time in Italy and I think it was Cyprus as well. Like he spent some time around Europe, and then was recently playing in India, and actually won their championship last season with Mumbai City alongside Adam. He was playing with Adam Lafondra, and that's sort of course, Sydney FC striker Lafondra, and that's sort of actually how he came across to the A-League, because Lafondra, of course, with his connection to Sydney FC, and I think a lot of Sydney FC fans might have hoped that he would have come to the Sky Blues, but Mariners scooped him up. And again, another one of those players that we're hearing good things from. And as far as I know, he's a left-footed player, can play as an attacking mid or even on the right-hand side as well. I actually, funnily enough, Wanderers and Mariners played a pre-season friendly just a few days ago, and I think, of course, Wanderers were winning that one, unfortunately, for the Mariners fans, but both Benny and Kololo and Kai Goddard starting in that game. So good to see that they're fit, they're getting minutes, and again, I think Kai Goddard is one of those signings. He could be one of those signings that people like one of those underrated signings where he's sort of flown under the radar and has the potential to really perform at A-League level. Because if you look at his highlights, he's got skills. Like he's got agility, he's got creativity, he's got passing. So especially when you got someone like Matt Simon and Marco Aurelio, strikers in the middle. Again, so much creativity in this Mariners side, which is exciting from a Mariners point of view.
Yeah, the final signing that I've got here is Yaron Sosa, goalkeeper. Not sure where he's from.
He came up through the academy side of Melbourne City, and I believe won a youth championship with that City side. And another interesting trajectory, because he went over to Malaysia, I believe, for a few years. And he's 24 years of age now, come back to Australia, signed with the Mariners. We needed to sign a backup goalkeeper because Adam Pearce had left the club just a few months prior. And again, one of these fascinating signings, usually as backup. It's funny, I feel like the backup goalkeeper situation in the A-League is a funny one, right? Because they very rarely get game time. They're usually, young keepers who have just come up through the youth squad. But, Mariners have gone and signed this 24-year-old Australian keeper who, from what he's said in interviews and when he arrived at the club, he's not here just to be a bench keeper. He wants to be playing football. And that's what you want from your side, right? You want goalkeepers who are going to be really fighting for spots. Unfortunately for him, he's arrived at, you have to say Mark Burigid was one of the best goalkeepers last season, so it's going to be tough to break into the starting lineup for Sosa. But, it's really a little bit of confidence now, knowing that if Bires picks up an injury here or there, you've got a decent keeper like Yaron Sosa to come in. So, another good signing.
Like that, with the backup goalkeeper, it's the same with the Wanderers. We've got Daniel Margush, but we also signed, his name's Skip me. I can't think of his name.
It's a Spanish goalkeeper. It's a Spanish. That's all I can remember.
Thomas Maya.
That's it.
And that was we've wasted a visa spot on a keeper who's probably, because Margush was up there with also, I think, one of the best last season. So for us to sign a backup goalkeeper, that was confusing.
It's a funny one.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's not the first time the Wanderers done that. I remember they had Lopa, who I believe was Spanish as well, right? And That'll be interesting, especially considering Margush was sort of your starting keeper for pretty much the whole of last season. Hey, so
Yeah.
I've seen some talk online of maybe after Adam Federici's retirement, maybe Margush will jump over to your rivals MacArthur FC potentially to get some more game time. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
I hope not, because Margush, he's young. He's got, he's got some experience between the sticks. So we'll quickly go through the departures list. So we've got Jack Clisby to Laurie, which you've mentioned. That's a loss in the defense.
It is, considering like how influential he was, and again, he was probably one of our more underrated players throughout the season. Because again, Jack Clisby, who had been at the Coast for a few years, and he struggled. He struggled for a number of years, you have to say. Well, I wouldn't say he struggled, but he was just underperforming. And another player who's been at a number of clubs, even spent a stint at the Wanderers as well.
Yeah.
But again, we saw at the Mariners, everyone lifted, and Jack Clisby, Alan Sturridge got the best out of Jack Clisby, and even towards the end of the campaign, chipped in with a couple goals in those last few rounds. So. We just thank, Jack for his service to the club, and obviously he's gone back to Perth where he started his A-League career.
Yeah.
And, but like I said, thankfully we've brought in a replacement quickly in Noah Smith. So, just a straight swap there, hopefully.
Yep. So I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Yonota? Michael Yonota?
Oh, yes, Michael Yonota. Yeah. Polish midfielder.
Yeah, he's gone back to Poland. I'm not even going to try and pronounce where he went.
Yeah, I mean, Yonota was one of those funny signings. We actually had a couple of those European signings, him and Yankovich, who never really settled in. They never really, I don't know if they never really settled in, but it's funny, they came to the squad, and I think we expected them to be, starting players in the starting lineup, as you'd expect with these experienced sort of players you bring in from Europe. But we had players like Josh Nisbet and Danny De Silva who were having, their best ever seasons, and it was Yonota was playing off the bench. Like, for memory off the top of my head, I think he only started 3 or 4 games, and majority of his appearances were off the bench, and even the young players coming off the bench were getting a start ahead of him in Dan Bowman and Jaden Casella. So, I mean, unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. So. It's funny because he looked decent here and there when he did come on the pitch, but a bit of a funny one in when we think back to it now.
Yeah, because he was only there for a year.
Yeah, he arrived last season, came in late, and didn't quite have too much of an impact.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we've also got Alou Qual, who went to
Alou.
Germany.
That's right. Yeah, it went over to Stuttgart. Yeah, and obviously he was one of the stars of the A-League last season, you have to say. I mean, just his impact that he made, and as Mariners fans, we think fondly back to I think it was round 7 or round 8 when we defeated Western United at home 3-2. We were down 2-1 in the first half. Bring on Ali Kowal, and he comes on and scores a brace. And it was amazing. It was the most incredible atmosphere I'd felt at Central Coast Stadium for since 2013-14. It had been so long, and there was a real characters like that, when they come into your team, really set the club alight and bring that excitement back. And again, we're just so thankful to have Ali with the club. And it was, again, a funny player because he barely started any games either. He probably made more bench appearances than starting appearances, but that's what he was. He was that impact player, and from what we're hearing, he's actually killing it over in Stuttgart. He's doing really, really well. So he's got massive potential for his career in football.
Yeah. Another departure, big loss in Danny De Silva off to MacArthur. Jeez, MacArthur's got a few good signings.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, MacArthur FC, a sort of, they're a hard one to predict because, as you said, they have made so many signings. So many high quality signings. Craig Noon, Ulysses DeVita, Tommy Urich.
Yeah.
And I mean, as I touched on before with Danny, he was such a crucial part of our success and a really unique player because he's got such a fantastic engine. He's I think people don't realize how good he is in defense as well. His defensive work rate, his ability to get back. was incredible to watch last season. And, I think Danny still probably hasn't hit the heights that he can. And you remember when he came onto the scene as a Perth Glory youngster years ago, and there was so much hype around him. And, obviously spent some time at Mariners and even at your rival Sydney FC. And, maybe MacArthur's the place where he steps up. But again, one of those players that we just have to thank for his service. And again, we've brought in some replacements, so we're feeling okay that we've sort of covered that spot with Nikolai Muller. But yeah, Danny De Silva might have a big career at MacArthur FC. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Stefan Negro to Victory.
Yeah, like another one of those ones where similar to Jack Clisby, where they've sort of returned to their original club, going back to Melbourne Victory. And again, another one of those really underrated players. So had a fantastic season, and Stadjic loved him. Stadjic really spoke highly of him last season. So Stefan Negro off to Melbourne Victory. And it'll be interesting to see. Again, Melbourne Victory, another side who have really strengthened well in this off-season. So it'll be interesting to see whether he gets some game time there as well.
Yeah. I believe you also mentioned this player before, Stefan Yankovich.
Yeah,
Another departure to Malta.
Yes, and again, he played even less. Actually, in fact, I think he only played literally like 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes of football, of A-League football. I remember him coming on as a sub. He just came on as how they bring in like a last-minute sub in injury time at the end of the game. He came on as a last-minute sub. And that was it. And that was his only appearance. To be fair, I think he was injured here and there a little bit. But another one of those players where like you bring in this European player who we're excited to see. He was wearing the number 7 for us last season, which is obviously a prestigious number in football. And he played 3 minutes of football. So another one of those weird ones where it's like, where's Yankovich? And then by the end of the season, he wasn't even involved at all. So another one of those weird ones.
And a final departure, Gianni Stenson, the Kiwi midfielder. Yeah.
This is the biggest one for me, and this is, where I think as Mariners fans we're feeling optimistic for this upcoming season. But this is my biggest concern for the Mariners this season, that we haven't replaced Gianni Stenson, because probably one of the most underrated midfielders in the league last season. Just his physicality in the middle of the park. And that partnership that he had alongside Oli Bozanic. And at the moment, we really haven't replaced him, unless we played Josh Nisbet in there. But Josh Nisbet is not as tall as Gianni Stenson, of course. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting to see whether we do bring in someone. It's getting real late now in the preseason, so hopefully it happens sooner rather than later. But yeah, we're going to miss Gianni Stenson. He was one of my favorite players. And as you mentioned, a New Zealand midfielder, and he featured in the Olympics for New Zealand as well, and he's got a lot of potential in his career because he's still young, could become a really top quality Kiwi international player, and I think he's gone off to Norway now and playing football over there. So all the best to Gianni. Yeah.
I also know you touched on this before, the preseason friendly out at Blacktown. The 2-0 loss.
That's right.
See, I'm a Western Sydney boy. I wish I could have gone to this game.
Yeah,
our goal scorers, Thomas Aquilina, and the trialist Jordi Spivell, who played with Sydney FC. So hopefully we sign him, because we lost Duke. That was not ideal. Kwame Yeboah has left to chase up a modelling career.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Random one.
Very random. So we've got Bernie Avini, Tom Ahmed. So I think I saw something last night that your dark horse are actually the Wanderers.
Yeah,
with our signings that we've made.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. The Wanderers for me, I really like the signings that they've made, and under Carl Robinson, again, interesting to see sort of what your thoughts, your verdict was on last season. But I feel like maybe a little bit underwhelming. Not finishing in finals again. And from what I see, that a lot of fans are a lot of Wanderers fans aren't quite happy with Robinson, and think that maybe someone else needs to be brought into the club. But the signings that they made are awesome. I think Dimi Petratos is a massive signing. Like, he has the potential to really, I can see him really flourishing at the Wanderers. And I mentioned it in that Dark Horse video. I mean, it's tricky labeling him as Dark Horse because it's tricky in the A-League because it's so balanced. Like, I feel like anyone. Like, it's really even anyway. So, but I think Wanderers are a team that really I expect to be finishing. Like, for me, I'm thinking maybe 4th, 3rd. I think they have the potential to finish that high. And Dimi Petratos, I think will be a key play for this season for them this season. When you look at the lineup that they're building, it's really strong. I think Tomer Hemed's a great signing, as you mentioned there. I really like the midfield, Ugarkovic and Bacchus.
Yep.
And, some of the defensive signings as well. Johnny Kotrumbis, Reece Williams, Adama Traore.
Yeah.
Like, they're just strengthening it all over the park. And I thought Ziggy Gordon and Mark Natter were really good for you guys last season. And, when you look at that starting 11 and this new Spanish goalkeeper that they've brought in, as we touched on, there's a lot of strength there. I don't know. What, as a Wanderers fan, how are you sort of feeling? Are you feeling optimistic with the squad?
I've felt optimistic for the past 4 seasons and have been let down for the past 4 seasons. So let's hope there's a bit of a change now being our 10th season in the comp, that we actually deliver and win some sort of silverware. Like, we've also signed Kajiro Ogawa, the Japanese winger.
Even more depth then in attack.
Hopefully something good comes out of this season.
I think plenty of potential. I think it could be,
from an outsider perspective, you being a Mariners fan, what do you think of the Wanderers jerseys all the way through? So goalkeeper and the 3 outfield jerseys.
I like them. I did a kit ratings video a couple of weeks back, and I thought Wanderers jerseys were fine, like, were decent. They weren't like amazing.
Yeah.
I thought I think Melbourne City's kits are the best this season, and I really like the Mariners kits this year. But I like them, and they're doing the thing with the 10 hoops, I believe, which represents the 10 years so far in the A-League, and of course they just recently released that 3rd kit. Which is a really unique design with like all the lines and stuff. It looks pretty groovy. But the goalkeeper kit looks awesome. I like just how they've gone all out with it. Really creative design. I think we should see that more. It's not completely just out there, but it's a jersey that I can see people wearing to CommBank Stadium this season. So solid kits from the Wanderers this year.
Because I'm like, what? I saw a post that was paying homage to the last 10 seasons with our goalkeeper jersey, and I'm like, what? But it's every jersey that was worn in the past 10 years, colour is in that strip.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the, pink, yellow, green, blue, all the jerseys we've worn over the past 10 years have been combined into one jersey.
I like that. That's really cool. It's a nice touch.
Speaking of jerseys, your FA Cup jerseys, the red and white bubble effect. Do you know what the meaning is behind the bubble?
I don't know if there's any meaning behind it, to be honest. For me, it's almost looked like a wave sort of effect. So I don't know if that's representing sort of the waves of the beaches on the coast here. But
I'm just zooming in here, and I can see the Mariners logo.
The little sort of like spiral. Yeah. It's an interesting design, and we've done this for the last few years now, where we've done like a specific sort of FFA Cup jersey. We don't usually do 2, so it's cool to have a couple of different kits there. And I don't like them as much as the main line, our A-League season kits. But it's cool to see a fresh new colour. We don't have to see Mariners wearing red. So the design is cool. It's meant to be like paying homage back to the original Central Coast teams back in the day. Our colours was I believe were red, white, and blue. Those were sort of the predominant colours. So some of the old Central Coast teams, like way back then, that was those colours. Yeah.
So we'll move into signings. Who do you think over the whole A-League is the best signing? There's a lot of them this year.
Yeah, it's such a hard one to unpack, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it to help me unpack it. But I guess I can throw some names out there already. I mean, obviously the big one is Daniel Sturridge, and that's the one everyone is so keen to see. If look, the simple thing is if he stays fit and settles into Australia quickly, he has the potential to be top 3 in the Golden Boot this year, and hopefully he can be. We'd love, there's been plenty of big marquee signings that have flopped in the A-League. So, but just for the benefit of the league, we really need to see them flourish, because that's when we bring, more fans into stadiums.
Yeah.
So I think we should keep an eye out for Daniel Sturridge and, as I mentioned, Dimi Petratos. I think Dimi Petratos is huge. I think, as I mentioned, he's a player that could really unlock, have a successful year at Wanderers. I think a player that could have a huge season as well as Chris Economides at Melbourne Victory. Now again, teaming up again with Tony Popovich at, a big club like Melbourne Victory. So much potential. Chris Economides, this could be his big year in the A-League where he becomes one of the top goal scorers. But yeah, there's been so many. I don't know. Have you got any thoughts?
There's a lot, so it's hard to pick one. Yeah, Daniel Sturridge alongside Fornaroli. That'll be a good attacking front there.
So dangerous.
Rumours with Wanderers signing Jack Rodwell, which is another former Premier League player.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, from what I've seen, like he I think he was at Sheffield United last, and he hasn't really been playing that regularly of late. How do you feel bringing someone like that in that maybe hasn't necessarily, played that much football of late? We saw another Englishman in Jordan Much come to the club last season as well. How do you feel about Jack Rodwell coming? Are you happy with that sort of signing?
I haven't watched much Premier League soccer. I'm starting to now. But I don't know too much about Jack. Hopefully he still has some minutes in the legs.
Yeah.
Because we signed Alexander Meyer, a couple of seasons back, who just wasn't up to scratch with the pace of the A-League in our hot summer conditions.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll wait and see and see how things go.
Yeah, another one of those interesting ones.
Yeah. So to move on to ladder predictions. Who do you have coming first, winning the toilet seat?
Yes. Well, for me, it has to be Melbourne City. It has to be Melbourne City, and they're a side that they're just so strong again this season, and in my opinion, their squad is stronger this year than it even was last year.
Didn't they sign Lachie as well?
Yeah, Matthew Lachie again, a signing who has the potential to light up the A-League. Great to have a big Australian player like him back in our own domestic league. So you've got that front three of Matthew Leckie, Jamie McLaren, and Andrew Naboot. That's crazy, man. It's so dangerous. Yep. There's no defense in the A-League that's going to contain if all three can stay fit, because that's the thing. Andrew Naboot missed portions of last season with injury, and if they can all stay fit, their City are going to be in the grand final again. And again, across midfield, it's so strong, and in defense as well, they haven't really lost anyone. So it has to be Melbourne City again. They're just too strong.
Yep. Who do you have at the bottom?
At the bottom, picking up the wooden spoon, as I've sort of touched on before, the A-League is so balanced at the moment, and I feel like this season, more than ever, is so, anyone could finish anywhere. But a team that I feel like is just dropping down with some of the players that they've lost is Wellington Phoenix. And, obviously, the situation regarding, where they're playing their games and being in New Zealand and not in New Zealand, it's really unfortunate for them. So I feel for the Phoenix, the players, staff, and the fans, because it's a tough situation. But the retirement of Stephen Taylor, which caught people off guard. They lost one of the Johnny Warren medal winner, and Ulysses Devere, and Tom Ahmed, their star striker, Cam Devlin, who was one of the best midfielders in the league last season. They lost all these players, and they're starting to bring in some replacements as well. But when you look at their squad, their quality just does. So many of the teams have strengthened so well, and Wellington Phoenix you feel like are just dropping just below the par. So I think it's a safe bet to see Wellington Phoenix towards the bottom of the ladder this year.
Yeah. Well, obviously it's hard to pick, and I tried to throw this together through everything. After you saying that, yeah, that's probably a good place to finish. I've got them in the 6th.
Okay.
Well, why? Like, I'm just put all the teams down and I'm like, okay, now I'll just move them around. But yeah, anything could happen.
Like with Ufuk Talay in charge, like I think Ufuk Talay is a good coach. I think he is, and in his first season in charge, he took him to the finals. So who knows? You know that they do have some. They've got a youthful squad this season. You know, Sam Sutton, Ben Old. Like they've brought in, they've been promoting youngsters from their academy side too. So who knows? I mean, they could totally prove us wrong. Again, that's why it's so exciting about the A-League. This side that we're expecting to finish bottom could be in the top 4 this year. Who knows? Yeah.
I've actually got Newcastle at the bottom. I got the Jets getting the spoon this year.
I love to hear that as a Mariners fan.
Where do you have your Mariners placing?
Yeah, so for the Mariners, and I try not to be too biased when I'm too optimistic, I guess, because it's very easy to want to put your team high up the ladder. I have us sneaking into 6th, and
me too. I've got them in 6th.
Yeah. Like they're a side that, as I mentioned, like still this season the squad's looking pretty good and like relatively the same as last year. But, you know, Nick Montgomery's in as coach. You know, we don't have Alan Stajic anymore. It'll be interesting to see how Montgomery go in his first season as an A-League coach. But I think it's more an issue of just the other side strengthening too well. You know, I think Wanderers is looking stronger than us this season. I think Melbourne Victory are going to finish in the finals this year. MacArthur, you know, as we touched on, is looking so dangerous. So I'm hoping that Mariners will finish in 5th, 6th. You know, we could drop out. But having said that, everyone thought they'd pick up the wood spoon last year and we finished 3rd. So, you know, again, who knows? But I think just sneaking into the finals would be a decent season. Yeah.
I've got the Wanderers sitting in 4th. I think we've got the squad to push that top 6. Hopefully. Please.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, as we touched on before, like I think Wanderers have that. Yeah, they do have the quality in the squad. So I'd go the same for me. Wanderers 3rd or 4th. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all the questions and topics that I've got. Is there any bold predictions you've got?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I guess my bold prediction at the moment is Wanderers finishing, you know, 3rd or 4th at the moment, which, you know, some fans might question. But some other bold predictions, I think Western United might be another dark horse, actually. Again, another team that people aren't really talking about too much. But John Aloisi's back in charge. And, you know, still got Diamante there. Brought in some interesting signings. Wenzel Halls brought in some experienced European signings as well. And A-League experience with, you know, Topper Stanley and Neil Kilkenny. So, again, a team that has potential to throw things up. So maybe a bold prediction we could see, you know, a team like West United up there. So, but yeah, I don't know. What about you?
I think West United also signed Jamie Young, you know, goalkeeper.
Jamie Young, which is, as we know, one of the best keepers in the A-League, and he has been for a number of years. So, you know, that could help lead them to success as well. Yeah.
I haven't really thought of any bold predictions. All I can really think at the moment is Sturridge not performing to how everyone expects him to. Yeah,
like I think with Sturridge, it's a tricky thing, especially with someone with the pedigree as Daniel Sturridge. Everybody knows his name. It's going to be so, like, with those marquees, people either say that they flopped or that they like absolutely killed it. It's like, it almost seems like there's no in between. So if he comes and scores maybe, you know, 6, 7, 8 goals and maybe misses out a handful of games with injury, people might say he's flopped. So it's going to be an interesting one.
Especially
another one to watch.
Because you have all these European players come over from England or whatever and just can't keep up with our Australian heat as well.
It's a big factor, that's for sure.
I've been here my whole life. I don't even cope with our summer heat.
Me too.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. Any other questions from you? Any other thoughts?
I'm all good. Well, I tell you what. Here's one final question we could finish off with. And as a Wanderers fan, it'd be interesting to see if you'd put your team in there. But I know we've talked about who's gonna finish top. But who do you see at the grand final at the end of the season?
Oh, I feel like City are going to be there. That seems to just be the normal. So the Sydney
It's a very
FC
safe choice.
or Melbourne City.
Yeah.
I want to say Wanderers, but again, I don't want to be biased and put our team up in the grand final.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll help you out. I'm actually this could be another bold prediction, I guess. I'm gonna say Wanderers to make the grand final as well. I think Wanderers will maybe finish fourth or third, but I'd love to see a Sydney Derby semi-final. Imagine that Sydney Derby semi-final would be epic, and I can see Wanderers just getting a late winner, and taking it to the grand final, and I feel like a City Wanderers grand final would be a really fiery affair. And again, I think from a neutral point of view, to be honest, we'd probably rather see something different than just another City and Sydney FC final. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there we go.
It's like the same with NRL. I don't know if you're an NRL fan at all.
Casually.
But seeing like Melbourne Storm, seeing the Roosters. Like I'm a diehard Roosters fan. But seeing Melbourne Storm. Again, Melbourne. What is it with Melbourne teams being in final? Melbourne City, Melbourne Storm, and the Roosters.
Well, as they say,
sporting
capital of Australia, right? That's what they say. So, yeah, there must be somebody down there.
Yeah. So if that's all the questions that you've got, I'm happy to wrap this up.
For sure, man, dude. And thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And always love talking A-League and my Mariners.
Yeah. I'll come down to the Mariners home ground and we can catch up for a game.
For sure, man.
Yep. If you haven't, head across to Coast Watch Football YouTube page. Give them a like, give them a thumbs up, subscribe. So thanks for joining us.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having me on. I do appreciate it.
All good. Have a good one.
So good. All good, man. That was fun.